again, wherever you're joining us, whether it's GoToWebinar or on YouTube. We are here for Alice and Yusuf's Tough Love Boot Camp. I believe this is the third installment of that, minus Yusuf today, who is on vacation, but will be joining us next month for our imposter syndrome boot camp. This one is about stop the overthinking and move forward in your business. So you have on GoToWebinar, you have the questions box. Anytime you want to leave a comment, ask a question, and on YouTube we have the chat, and I'm just going to move some things over so that I can actually see the chat. Screen is always full of stuff when you're broadcasting. Prior to this, I also have a lot of submissions from you guys about your overthinking confessions, so I thought we'd go through those. But we call this a boot camp, but we could also call this today, we could call it a support group, because I am also an overthinker. And I think there's something I do to approach it differently, at least when it comes to my business. I know I'm in my head all day long, always thinking, thinking all the different scenarios of how something could work, or like all these different things. But when it comes to my business, I know that if I don't take action, my overthinking is an assumption, right? I don't know the truth. I'm thinking this, but until I do it, I don't know. And when I do it, I learn more than if I get stuck in the thinking. So we are all capable of doing that, right? We are all capable of thinking, okay, I can't start, but I'm going to do it anyways. But that said, if before I dig into your guys' submissions, I want to say that there are a couple of instances, because I was thinking about where do I overthink and I allow it to paralyze myself. And I can think of two things, well, it's kind of technically three things where I have done that. I used to be in karate and somehow managed to get to green belt, partly because I work hard and I do that. But my sensei would always tell me, because it didn't always make sense to me, all the movements we were making. I didn't visualize them as, what it actually was. And he said, and I would get paralyzed and I wouldn't move. I wouldn't do the movements, or I would do them not as well as I should. And he would say, I can see you thinking. And he was right. It happens to me in a dance class as well. I took dance classes to try to keep my brain sharp as I go older. But I love dancing. And if I can dance how I want, it all works out well. But as soon as you try to, because that's coordinating my body, and that's physically keeping me, what's happening in my head is physically keeping me from doing that. I don't know that same thing applies to business, but maybe it does, and you guys could share if you do become paralyzed. And the other thing is speaking. Speaking publicly, speaking on video like I am now. I used to prepare so hard. I used to write out every word I wanted to say, or at least in very detailed bullet point format, so I don't forget anything. That was always my fear. I might forget something. Everyone always said, oh, you know the topic, Alice, you can just talk about it. And I'd be like, oh, but I'm just going to forget. I'm going to forget something. So this overthinking stopped me. But with practice, which is the other thing I want to encourage you too. If I said, just go ahead and do it, and you're not willing to do it, then the practice of just going ahead and doing that works. We actually, part of the reason we do these live streams is an exercise, obviously to share stuff with you guys, but it's also an exercise for Yusuf and me to practice. Right? We don't prepare as much. We often make notes and stuff like that to prepare, but it's not a presentation that's prepared. So it is practice for us to get out of our heads and do that. If you can think of ways that you can do those kinds of things and just move forward instead, then you might be able to do that. In fact, for this session, I purposely tried not to prepare too much. I didn't write opening notes, maybe you can tell, but I feel okay about it, even if it wasn't completely eloquent and how I wanted to start, or I actually didn't have an expectation of how I wanted to start. And I think that's part of it too, is letting go of those expectations on how perfect it should be or how it should look, and just going with the flow. So what I want to do also is I also challenged myself by not, looking at everybody's submission and I did glance at them, but not to be able to do this off the cuff, to demonstrate what I'm trying to say to you. So I would love to start going through those, if you guys are all right with that. And let me just check if we're all clear. Yes, okay, good. And I won't say anybody's name. I was going to read the first names, but I'll just leave the names off. It doesn't matter. I got quite a few submissions. If I don't get to yours, I think there was a lot of common themes, right? So you'll probably still hear something that resonates with you. But yeah, the first submission was, "Hi, Alice. That's a great topic. Guilty as charged." Hey, we're all guilty. Number one, what causes me to overthink? I want to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place before I start something. That kind of sounds like what I just said too, right? About speaking or understanding the whole thing of not knowing it, or when it comes to dancing or karate, not knowing the next step, that I don't have it all figured out, right? And it freezes me. So she says, I want to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place before I start something. So I lose myself in research, extra training, and the gathering of material. It was helpful for academic work and project planning in business, but in the solopreneur and marketing situation, it's become a hindrance. I think I don't want to make a mistake and have to fix it later. For example, I'm afraid of choosing the wrong course or email platform and having to start again from scratch, learning another system, wasting money, etc. And then she also shared some insight on how that affects her business. She says, I am procrastinating and avoiding putting myself out there, so less visibility, less income, and less personal satisfaction. Unconsciously, I delay in the name of having more and better info to provide my future clients, but I know better. It's by doing that I will learn. It's by accepting those mistakes are par for the course. It's also new that I get confused and start to wonder if I really have what it takes to start on this online journey. Overthinking is a great way to avoid facing that challenge. That's some like pretty good insight, right? That it's, it's almost like a protective mechanism, right? Because you can't be wrong if you don't do anything. But when it comes to she said it, I don't want to for example, I'm afraid of choosing the wrong course or email platform and having to start again from scratch, learning another system, wasting money, etc. But not doing anything is a waste of time, probably a waste of money, because you've probably already paid. This is to everybody. If you're doing the same thing and you haven't made a choice on a particular piece of software, you've probably already paid for something else to start your business. And you're wasting that money. You're also wasting your time. You're also wasting your learning thing. And the way I look at it is that is the biggest blessing of having an online business, is that we can fix things. We can start on a different platform. And trust me, you are not going to use the same platform the whole time through. You are going to learn things. Your business is going to change, and you're going to want to explore different options that are going to fit what you've learned from doing. So you may have thought you needed one thing, and you could spend all your time researching those requirements that you have, but you might be wrong. You don't know what those requirements are until then. But also, our businesses evolve and they change. So you have to make those decisions in order to know if the decision is correct. All right, I'm going to continue on. You guys feel free to, interject however you'd like. I'm watching the chat and the questions box on GoToWebinar. All right, so we have one that says, never seem to be sure of how much I should offer, since I have so much to offer to get started. Then I get distracted and have to start over, feeling like I'm on a gerbil wheel sometimes. Still haven't launched my business. So it's, it's the same kind of thing, right? Like you're not sure how much to offer, and you won't know how much to offer. I'm assuming it means like how much to put in a course or something like that. But you just have to start with a plan, right? Come with a clear outline of what you're going to do, break it down into steps, and do it. And if we're talking about a course, let's say you run a live course and you feel like that wasn't quite right, I need to do something different. Well, you can edit the recordings, you can redo recordings, you can do all that stuff, and you will learn through the process. All right, we have another one. First, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Second, I overthink every time I don't get a good response to a post or people don't respond the way I think they will. This has kept me struggling for years because I keep going back and forth over who my audience is and what I should be teaching. I am thinking that is a testament not to the quality of one's content, but more about being the victim of an algorithm, right? Where nobody responds and things like that. And I totally hear that. I understand that. And I think that that is a, a bit of, it's a confidence thing, right? And obviously having nobody respond and not have something seen can hurt that confidence, could hurt confidence that you might have. But I think there is a confidence issue already if that hurts your feelings, because, or not that it's going to hurt feelings. I'm not suggesting we're robots and nothing will hurt us, but that it keeps us from doing things, because when you know your content is good, and your content is good, and there is no such thing as perfect, that you will be enjoying the process. I've talked about this a lot, like with why we have a Facebook group, and when we first started it, I mean, we had fewer members, but we had way more engagement, and that has nothing to do with the quality of the content, I don't believe. But it has a lot to do with Facebook showing that content. But I still do it. Several years after that engagement went down due to the algorithms, I still do it because I found something about it that is rewarding to me. I do it just as much for myself, all these posts, as I do for the audience, because I use social media to start discussions, to think about things, or to clarify my own thoughts. Like a lot of it is me sharing things that pop into my head, or things I'm working on and sharing, giving me a little bit of accountability to keep moving forward. It's for me as well as it's for the audience. And if you can find that spot in when you're sharing stuff, even if it doesn't get seen, then I think that makes a big difference, right? And also not worrying about social media so much, right? I think, getting people on your list, getting to where you have more control over the conversation. We did move to now we have our own community, a private community that relies on us being able to get you guys to log into a whole different place, but we're not subject to we're not subject to the algorithms inside our own platform. So yeah, all right. So Colleen says, that was a perfect answer to my fears. I'm wasting money right now by not doing anything and committing to a platform. I can change later and grow that way. Grateful for your insight. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and it's funny, I think in our last boot camp before Yusuf was here, and we were talking about confidence, I believe. And he said he mentioned he's not going to be here. And he said, because I said it's a perfect topic to me to do while he's not here, because he does the same thing, right? he will think about it for a long time, think about software. And I'm grateful to really grateful, and think about this, that you have some special skills if you do research things and you do that kind of stuff, because he's able to do a lot more research. I'm more like, oh, let's just use this and not worry about it and see what happens. So that balances between us. So sometimes it is a good thing. But very similar to your situation, Colleen. All right, I'm going to move on to another one. I believe I get stuck in my own head thinking that I have nothing to offer or who will want to hear from me. It affects my business because I don't do anything with all the products I purchase. I'm constantly grabbing the next shiny object and then it sits. Ugh. Yeah. So the only way out of that, right? Like if it's confidence, the only way to get past that is to start doing things and seeing how it works, right? So you have to tell yourself that you're not going to buy more products until perhaps this is what you could tell yourself, you're not going to buy more products until you put this into action. And just having a small little group of people, like it doesn't have to be a big audience, but if you don't start growing that audience, don't start setting your stuff up, you're not going to be able to connect with people. Another thing you could do, is get involved in other people's communities and groups and things like that, where you are interacting and sharing. You're not trying to steal their audience or anything like that. You are practicing. You're practicing connecting, and see how people respond to you in those other groups. And you will see that you have something to offer, that you have something people want to listen to. So that takes kind of the pressure off yourself in like creating your own thing where you feel like that, but you're just engaging other people and learning about the audience and things like that. So you could find Facebook groups or other communities. I don't belong to groups on any other social media platform, but I know there's like LinkedIn groups and things like that, but that might be an idea for you. All right, next. I'm constantly overthinking because I want everything to be just right. I'm thinking such things as, is it the right information? Will people use it? What if nobody likes it? I'm just going to make a note because I don't want to forget this. Which company should I use for printing? Is it too expensive? How does my overthinking affect my business? I still haven't started my business. Okay, well, let's just change that. So the first thing that caught my attention and what I wrote a note on, because sometimes when I read things, it disappears in my head, so I had to write it down. But what if will people use it? That is the comment that got me. I also want to tell you that in this online business thing, people are going to buy your products and not use them. They're going to show interest in something, and then when you deliver it, they're not going to do anything. And that doesn't mean that what you've put out there is bad. It means that people are just like us. They're stuck, could be stuck in overthinking, so they haven't used it. There could be they're just busy, they're distracted, they have that shiny object syndrome thing too, right? So that is something that we have to get used to. And I find it hard sometimes too, thinking like, oh, but that was good. Why didn't you guys do something with it? But that's often out of our hands. But maybe, in this case where this person wants everything to be just right and not launching a product, maybe come up with something really small, a little small free offer. Not something people have to pay for, a small free offer that solves a very specific problem, so it will be very helpful to your audience. Start there. And then as you get feedback, you can learn on what you might do to make it bigger or turn it into a paid product. You have so many options. All right, here's one that has some good advice in it too, I think. Let me just head back here to the other chat. Okay, we're all good. I've almost trained myself to stop that, the overthinking. Now I ask, what is the next step I can do right now and get it done? I do try to map out the steps so I have something to go by, or I will overthink things. I have a bigger problem deciding on the steps and what order they should be in. With that being said, I do tend to still overthink at times, so I'm interested in finding more ways to catch myself doing it and stopping it in its tracks, right? So that's a great piece of advice. What's just the next step? And that's really all you need to know. Like if you're putting something together and a product, let's say, and you need to learn how to create the document and you don't know how to do that. You don't need to know the next steps in order to just do that step, right? You just do it step by step and you'll get it done. Yeah, and just thinking, I have a bigger problem deciding on the steps and what order they should be in. That's the crazy thing about online business too, and maybe other things in life as well, but there are so many different orders things can be done in. And the only way you figure out the best order that works for you is by trying stuff. And like, again, like these mistakes that we make, they're really like, I have made so many mistakes, but none haunt me. Like it was easy to fix, or if it was harder to fix, it still got fixed and it's behind me now and I learned something in the process. But I don't know, like I don't know if anyone here has an experience of a mistake that they made that like they just still regret so much. I don't. Like I always, you know, when you get interviewed on a podcast or something, people often ask like, you know, what's your biggest mistake? Or it's like, I don't know. Like I don't think that way, right? I mean, it was a stepping stone. It was a way to get to the next step. I made a mistake like that. Yeah, I have really a lot of trouble with that question. Probably because I overthink it. All right, next is I overthink because I don't always utilize a system, causing me to spend too much time on products. Yeah, definitely. You need like a basic plan. You don't need to know, like, you don't need to know every step. You just need to know the next step. But even if you still have like this plan, you don't need to know it fully, like every part, everything that could go wrong or anything like that. Um, so that sounds like a situation where you're just gonna have to use a system, find someone who's gonna tell you, or find some article or video that shows you how to do what you want and just do the steps. This makes me think like, I've shared the story before, but a few years ago when I was working on my public speaking, you know, people said, oh, join Toastmasters or something like that, which if you aren't familiar, it's like an organization where you do practice public speaking with other people, and it's to develop that. And I think it's free. It's sort of like a community type thing. But I didn't want to do it because it sounded boring and I didn't want to do like speeches and things like that. So I signed up for a stand-up comedy class because I love comedy and I thought it's creative, and I thought that's a great way for me to do it. But I will tell you, and I'm going to estimate the numbers because I might not remember. It's been quite a few years now, but I believe there was about 14 people who signed up for this class to do stand-up comedy. The purpose of the course was to learn techniques, and it would end with you doing a 5-minute set on a stage at a local comedy club. Out of the 14, probably like half just stopped showing up for class pretty quick. And by the time it came to doing the show only 3 of us did it. Nobody else would do it. And the reason I was able to do it was because I listened to the instructor. She said things and gave me advice that I was like, I don't know, that doesn't sound right. But I just did everything she said anyways, and found out that what she told me to do set me up for that success. Was my 5-minute set perfect? No, it was kind of awkward and weird, but it still made people laugh. and and that's how it worked out for me, because I just took the advice and followed it. I didn't try to modify it. And when you know things, and if you're somebody who feels like you can do that, then do that. But if you overthink and you're not sure and you get stuck at steps, just take somebody else's steps and do them. One of the things she told me, actually, and it is the pieces of advice she gave, was invite as many people as you can to the show. So it's everybody doing the stand-up. They also brought in a professional comedian and stuff, but invite everyone. Invite your family and friends, invite their friends, like coworkers, like just invite everybody, because everybody, the more people you have there, you know, they're happy for you, they're excited, they're going to laugh, they're going to cheer you on, and it's going to create a whole different environment like that, right? So I think that is sort of similar to, you know, going somewhere, you know, and where you feel less pressure. I talked about, you know, social media, maybe practicing somewhere else, but it did make a huge difference. I had the biggest group there. I think there were about 20 people at a table that I booked for them, and that it did make a big difference. Right. Leroy says, I worry that whatever I am, this is in the chat or questions. I worry that whatever I'm currently doing is the best use of my time, or I should be doing something else. Oh my gosh, I feel that all the time. Not necessarily about business, but in my life all day long, right? I'm like, oh, I should be going tending to the garden. I should be doing these chores. I should be doing this. I should read my book. I should, like, you know, all the time. And those are just voices in our heads that, like, and they're annoying, and they should be quiet, and we should tell them to be quiet, because we're all doing the best we can, right? And there is no like best use of your time. I don't believe that. Or a lot of people say, like, you know, I'm not reaching my optimal potential, but there is no such thing as that either, because whenever you choose to do something, something else gets put in the back burner. And there is no ideal like formula of what you should be spending all your different bits of time on, because something always is gonna get fall back, and it's not gonna be done. So you have to just be good with what you're doing, and you'll learn through it. Like, obviously, if you do something and in the end you're like, I don't know why I did that, and you think about it, and then you adjust from there. But, you know, beating ourselves up about it, I don't know. Does anyone else have that voice? Oh, I have that voice following me all day long, I swear. But I think when I'm working, it shuts down, and I get focused. But about everything else, absolutely. All right. All right, we have another confession here. It says, everything must be beyond perfect. The result is that nothing ever gets published. Oh dear. Right. There is no perfect, though. How could there be perfect? Because what's perfect for you is not necessarily perfect for others. I'll give a little example from like when we have had graphics created and I don't like them. Like the ones that I'm like, I don't really like that. And then I'll be surprised at how other people respond to it and they like it, right? There is no one, and it's not just graphics, it's the way we learn, and the way we learn, the information we can process. It's like there is no perfect. And if we're talking grammar and things like that, well, We're all going to make mistakes in spelling and grammar, even if you hire an editor, right? It's still gonna squeak past with some mistakes here or there. So it's something to really let go of because you don't know how people are going to respond. So say you're like trying to do a course and you're like, I want to have this, and this in it, and it's going to be perfect. But how do you know? Maybe that'll be overwhelming to your audience. Maybe it won't make sense. Just get something out there and get that feedback that you can shape things to be not perfect, but to be really great for your audience. All right. Oh no, this one. Okay. I stress over whether to publish content that is ready if I can make it better and end up procrastinating. And well, in one word, I am held back by perfectionism, even though I know that's stupid. I do overcome it, but sometimes I just can't help myself. And then answers the question of how does this affect my business? The more I publish, the more money I can earn. So when I don't publish, simple math. Yeah. I actually never I think in my time, there's been very few things that I have created that I didn't publish that would be hiding somewhere on my hard drive. Um, you made it, just put it out there, see what happens. Yeah. Another one. I am a ruminator. It slows down some decisions or progress on projects. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I think I'm a ruminator as well. But when you do that one next step, you can ruminate on the step that you just made, but then do the next one. Like you can still think about it and adjust your plan as you go along. I think that's, that is a really good way to get rid of that, is to be able to just make a decision, right? You just go ahead and do it. You see what happens. You adjust as you go, because you can't solve a problem if there is no problem. If you're ruminating on stuff and you haven't done it, you don't really have a problem other than the overthinking, right? But you don't have a business problem because you haven't done anything. So I love the challenge actually, and maybe it's some mindset shift inside too. I love the challenge of figuring out how can I adjust this. In times where like I've overplanned something, or I mean like I've planned to do too much and I realize it's too much and I have to adjust that plan as I go. I love the satisfaction of being able to see that problem, that okay, I can't include everything here, but if I just include A, B, C, I'm doing something really great that can get out there, and I can work on improve it later, or just not worry about it, because sometimes we have these ideas in our head that products or content has to cover so many different things, but it doesn't. Our customers just want solutions to their problems, and they don't always need to have every angle covered. They just want something that's going to make a difference if they put it into action. And when you give them too many things to put into action, maybe that's going to be difficult for them. All right, so we have another. And I've been overthinking my whole life because of where my single mother could afford to live. My overthinking affects my business due to past wrong choices I've made. So I assume that's like in a situation where your mother didn't have a lot of money. I think you're here. I didn't say people's names because the written part here, but if you want to clarify kind of what you need, and then you have made wrong choices in your business, but I'm wondering actually if you do want to clarify too. Like I mentioned earlier how I think I've made mistakes, but they're not life-shattering mistakes. What kind of mistakes have you made that made you feel like they are that you can't could take action because you couldn't, because I also think like if you've made that wrong choice, you must have learned something from it, and you'll make better choices the more choices you make. All right, I'm going to keep going, but if you want to clarify anything on, and it's okay if we just continue on, whatever works. All right, the next one is, one of the main things that holds me back is I think everyone already knows what I know or have in me to share. I know that is totally not true. I overthink what I know isn't enough and or isn't what people need, etc. Yeah, so that's interesting, right? That we think, okay, everybody already knows that, but she literally knows that's not true. And it still holds us back, right? So those are like those voices that we have to tell them, to be quiet because they're wrong. And the more you defy those voices and go and do something anyways, the quieter they'll become. I think that, and everybody starts everywhere, right? All you have to do as a leader to your audience is be one step ahead of them. And if that made you nervous and you think, oh no, because maybe I'm not, but that's going to happen naturally, right? So maybe if you don't consider yourself an expert in your topic, which you don't have to be like a quintessential expert, you don't have to be to make a difference in people's lives. Those people who you resonate with are naturally going to come to you. And if you're not saying anything, how are they going to know that you are that you are a great person for them to follow? If you're quiet, they don't know. You're not going to learn from that at all, right? You're going to stay stuck. They're not going to have the benefit of your wisdom. Okay. I'm definitely an overthinker, mostly from being a people pleaser all my life. That has led me to doubt myself as well. So I end up overthinking everything all the time, and it most definitely affects my business and not in good ways. It takes me too long to get my real ideas out there and to take action on things I know I need to take action on. I hold myself back a lot, almost daily. Right. Oh, Sherry, you're most welcome. Sherry's got to go, but says it's been very helpful. You're a tremendously calm mentor. Sometimes I'm not calm. But yes, thank you. Have a good day. So this is interesting. So like, this is about people pleasing, right? And I think it means that like that the fear is that you'll put something out that isn't going to make people happy. But if you are a people pleaser, can you not shift your brain to think a little bit differently in that, I mean, leverage that people pleasing tendency and put it out there so people can decide if it helps them or not. Yeah. Okay, there's a follow-up on the question from before, and I chose the wrong group to follow. Yeah. So yeah, our upbringings, which obviously, becoming a people pleaser or, or socioeconomic status of our family, that has an impact on us as we grow. Yeah, I can understand that. And here we have, I am an overthinker from my anxiety and depression and low self-esteem. This affects me with keeping me from starting my blog and printables. I want it to serve other spoonies and being as productive as they can be, but I'm afraid of failing myself, but even more heartbreaking would be failing others. So we have a theme here, right? Like, this is someone who wants to help people who struggle the way she struggles, but she's not doing anything to help them. So wouldn't it be better to put something out? And you don't have to tell people what to do also, right? Like, so if you struggle with a thing, you don't have to say, if it causes you discomfort, you should do this way. This is where stories are great. You share your story. You share like not only what happened, but also like what what thought process you had through all that. And people will learn from that and people will appreciate that. People love stories. So start sharing your story at least, right? Okay, next one is, and and first, if it helps at all too, like for anxiety, that is definitely, anxiety is my jam. Sherry said I was calm, and I am calm, but I also have like physical anxiety a lot. It wakes me up at night. And it's not always about things. It's a physiological thing in my body, but I've learned techniques to try to to curb it, to know anxiety is a liar, man. It tells me things that, which is the same thing like that was meant, Leroy mentioned, or I think it, yeah, Leroy, am I using the best use of my time? How I'm thinking I should always be doing something else. That's anxiety. And we all have it, but we have to work around it. Yeah. Overthinking slows me and my business down. I overthink because so much seems to be riding on each and every decision. I just want to do it right. But I wonder, I don't know if she's here, like, what's riding on these decisions? I'm thinking it's like we're overblowing it in our heads, right? Because a lot of the time too, like you could make a mistake, but a lot of the time there aren't going to be mistakes. You're just going to do it and it's going to work. I don't know what could be the worst. Like obviously I don't know what she's thinking of specifically, but let's assume that it's about launching a product. What, like, what's the worst thing that could happen other than you might launch a product and it doesn't sell? Maybe that sounds scary, but you at least you did it. You have ways to improve it. It could be your marketing that needs improvement. Maybe it's the product itself. Maybe it's the offer. Like there are so many things that you can refine from there. Or maybe it's just a dud. Big deal. You still did it and you learned something. If you do nothing, you are still like that. The decision, nothing got done. Yeah. All right, next one is, I tend to overthink things because I need everything to be perfect before I let people see what I've created. Yes, okay, I think we've got it. Yeah, that's a very, very common thing to want it to be perfect, but we know we have to tell ourselves. And I don't know if that works. Like when I said like telling you the voices in your head to be quiet, is that in times where those voices are in my head, I do literally, usually in my head, maybe sometimes out loud, I will tell it to stop, tell it it's wrong, and then I will do something different. Like that's what you have. You absolutely have to do. Take it small, do a small thing that feels a little uncomfortable. Yeah. I overthink because I'm concerned about what others will think of me. Therefore, I've had many false starts in business. Yeah. I think that's where it comes a lot of it, right? That, we're worried about failing other people. We're worried about what they will think. And honestly, like we also need to tell that voice that not everyone is going to like us. And the more we try to do something that everyone will like, the less likely we're going to have people resonating with us and following us for the long term or becoming long term customers. Because if you do something that everybody is all right with. It's very vanilla. They can find that anywhere. You want to stand out. And when you stand out, you aren't going to be everyone's cup of tea. And that's okay. And I think, when I think about when I'm criticized, like in any aspect, anywhere on social media, when I'm having a conversation about politics or anything like that, that the only time it really bothers me is when I feel like there's a bit of truth to what they say. So the more confident I am in what I have to say, then the less likely it's to be like, I don't really care. So what? And most of the time I don't actually care, because I don't care if people think the same way as me. I don't care if they like everything I like, but it's something to just get past. You're allowing other people's opinions to kind of hurt your own opinion about yourself. Okay, we did this one already. Oh, I think we have like 2 left. And you guys are welcome to add your own or ask more questions or whatever you need. So I get stuck on believing that other people have already posted and sold anything and everything I could possibly come up with to post or sell. My email list and Facebook following are somewhat limited right now. This affects my business because I am constantly accumulating PLR and trying to add my own spin, never actually completing anything. It's getting warm in here. This is a cold drink in my mug. Yeah, I think so there's a thing like, so you're using PLR trying to add your own spin. And I think that is a common thing that happens, right? So you might use AI tools, you might have PLR, and it tells you what the content is, right? And then you're trying to figure out how to make it yours. But I think what's more important is to find what your spin is before you purchase the PLR, before you use an AI tool, because we all view things differently. And whatever problem that you might be solving for people, you do have a unique perspective from everyone, if you think about it. And think about what how do you look at the problem differently than most people? And how can you turn that into something useful for people? Because I use PLR all the time, but I always kind of have an idea of what I'm doing, what I want, and then I use PLR to fill in the gaps. Or if I'm using ChatGPT to help me brainstorm stuff, I still am the one who's in the driver's seat, and I know the message I want to send, and that's how I work it. Now, if that sounds difficult, one thing you can do with PLR is, adding examples or stories from yourself. Stories are coming up again. I think that's really what makes us unique, is our own experiences and how we dealt with those experiences, how we think about those experiences. So the more comfortable you get with that, the more you'll see what it is that what makes you unique, what makes you different, what makes people want to listen to you. If you're trying to make it perfect and the right advice, then we will probably lose some of that. Indeed. So I think that's a great time to, like if she's feeling that way, to like do some work on what when it comes to business, coming up with what's our unique selling position, right? What makes us different. And I think as a solopreneur, we have the ability to, as opposed to a big corporation, we have the ability to tap into our personalities and to the ways we think about things and to create something more unique. So it's an exercise worth doing. If anyone's listening and that sounds interesting, catch me in the eKit Hub University community, and I can give you some worksheets or something to kind of work on that. Yeah, I have something, but I don't know where it is offhand. I'd have to find it. So if you want to come up with something like that, because I think that actually, I'm glad we came to that, because I think that's sort of a theme here too, is that, worried that everybody knows everything and that all of it's already been done, but it's not. All right, we have one more. And I think, yeah, we're almost at the top of the hour, so it worked out. I was worried I wouldn't be able to get to them, but thank you. I hope you guys are finding this useful. And yeah, it's interesting. Like, as you can see, like, this whole thing is sort of an example of stories, right? These are stories we're sharing that you guys are relating to and you're hearing, and it's allowing you to think about your own thing. So you can do the same thing. Obviously, I'm using other people's stories right now, but I'm also telling you about my experience in the meantime, how I think about things, and it allows you to find different ways to think about things. All right, and I see we have some comments in the question, so we'll get to that before we go. But this is excessive data analysis paralysis causes me to overthink. I'm wasting time on unnecessary considerations. If it's data specifically, I wonder. Yeah, like if, when we get caught up, I'm not sure I'm going to speak to exactly what he meant, but it does make me think of people who run their whole business on numbers, right? And thinking that, okay, I'm going to do the thing that maximizes this particular metric. That's going to give me the most clicks and the most conversion, but they don't, data can't give you the full picture, because every time you make a decision to do something that perhaps has the high, it's kind of like the finding your optimal potential, right? When you focus on just conversion on a thing, you will miss other things. You may lose, which is fine to lose parts of your audience who aren't interested or whatever, but like, there's always a give and take everywhere. So sitting and trying to figure out what numbers are going to tell you for your business is only part of the thing. It's like, you're never going to have this optimal perfect business. You're never going to have this optimal perfect product. It's just something that you put out there that helps people. In comments, I confuse myself. I don't care. I need to move this over, but I can't, because I can't see the full comment. There we go. Maybe. There we go. I confuse myself. I don't care about what people say, because I know that not everyone will like everything, but I still ask myself what they think. Yeah, I also think that's, everybody does that as well. Because I do, like, obviously when I said I don't really care, I do think about it. But I don't think, it's very rare that I'll beat myself up about something that particularly people I don't know think, and sometimes people I do know. Because I can still reflect. Okay, so say, maybe I did something that wasn't the best idea. I still learn from that and can still do better. And, it gives time to reflect on that when we get criticism, right? All right, so I hope you guys have found that useful. And I think we're gonna wrap up. And hi, Lynn, I just saw your comment. I think I missed that before, but glad you joined us. All right, any final thoughts or comments before we wrap it up? I hope I gave you stuff to think about, tell those voices to be quiet. Understand that you do have, something unique to offer. And if you don't know what that is offhand, do the work to find out what it is. and embrace your stories, because people, and learn, how to share those, and that, share them with the intention of giving people something to think about. And don't, well, no, don't overthink that part, right? So maybe like, my stories are boring. Don't worry about that. Just put them up there, see what happens. All right, I think we're going to wrap up. And I thank you guys so much for joining us. So next month, for our YouTube members and our Platinum Inner Circle, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, which is obviously quite related to this topic as well. They all are. Confidence was related as well. But hopefully we'll have some new ideas and perspectives that will be helpful to you guys. So I will say good afternoon. It's an afternoon here. I know it's morning for some and late evening for some of our visitors today, but take care, everybody, and see you next time.